Hello, this is Miss Schrader. Today we are going to start talking about a phenomenal artwork or art form called Impressionism. And this is a huge field of art, very similar to the Renaissance. My students, you're going to need a piece of paper and something to write with. And you're going to be taking notes. And when you're done, you are going to give me a minimum of 10 sentences about what you found interesting, educational, and important about Impressionist art. So, Impressionist art started in the mid 19th century, somewhere around 1860 in France, and it is based on the practice of painting out of doors and spontaneously on the spot rather than in a studio from sketches. Main Impressionist subjects were landscapes and scenes from daily life. So, a lot of things that deal with the out of doors. So rather than taking your notes, going back to your studio, it's going to be done right there. Um, Impressionist art frequently has an unfinished look. It reflects fleeting moments. The paintings sometimes look fuzzy and undefined. There are quick strokes. Often you'll be able to see the brush strokes really clearly. And they often have bright and vibrant colors. The painting that you're looking at right now is by Claude Monet. It is an oil painting called Impression Sunrise, done in 1872. And you should be able to see the reflection of the water. You can see sort of the waves. You can see I'm assuming this is sunrise, so it must be the sun coming up, being reflected on the water. There's a lot of fuzziness in the background, and all of this deals with Impressionism. So there is a political element to Impressionist art. Um, in France at that time, the art community was having something called salons. Normally, every 6 months, a group of the artists would choose the very best artwork that had been produced in that 6 months and display it, which of course is good for you as an artist who wants to make some money. And the Impressionists couldn't get these salon leaders to show their paintings. These salon leaders were saying, no, it's sloppy, we don't like it. And so in time, the Impressionists actually started their own salons to show Impressionist art. Impressionist art was so popular, it eventually kind of took over the scene. And it's so popular today that you can go to displays of Impressionist art very frequently. It is not hard to find Impressionist art. This piece is by Pierre Auguste Renoir. It is Dance at Le Moulin de la Galette. And one of the things I want you to notice, see the couple dancing on the left side? The woman's dress seems to have streaks of pink and blue. That's intentional. That deals with the coloring. Look at the man seated with his back to you. It looks like he's got blotches in his jacket. That's probably being caused by some sort of a pattern of sunlight from the trees above. There are a huge number of people in this picture, and as you look at them as they go further back, they become blurry and fuzzy. But remember, the artist is doing this painting there at that time, and he wants to make sure he is showing what he's seeing. Another thing that the artists are having to deal with is the competition from the camera. By this point, the camera is becoming more and more popular. And if you are a person who wants to have a realistic likeness of yourself done, you're going to go to a photography studio instead. And so these artists are trying to point out the differences between what the camera does and what an artist can do. As you look at this painting, this is Claude Monet, Haystacks. And if you look at it, you'll see that it's basically lots of short strokes of color and a huge amount of different types of color. It's showing haystacks out in a field, but I mean, there's a lot of purple in here. There's a lot of yellow. You can see a huge amount of orange. It's not an attempt at being realistic. And when I look at these types of paintings, the urge to reach out and touch it because the paint is very thick and gloppy on there, almost like you could feel it, is really impressive. A lot of these Renaissance artists were friends and they would go together, say, rent a house down along the seashore or someplace where they knew they could go out into nature and do beautiful paintings. And so a lot of their paintings are showing themselves, their friends, etc. This piece is by Berta Morisot or Morisot. It's called Reading. I want you to notice that the lady's face is kind of blurry. You can't see a lot of detail to it. Same thing with her hands. And as you get into the black background, it really gets very, very fuzzy and shady. Um, but once again, part of it deals with the dramatic of the colors between her white dress and the green behind her. You can see in the background that there is some sort of a wagon. They really like the idea of being out amongst the normal people. As I've mentioned, one of the things about Impressionist art is how incredibly popular it still is today. This particular painting is by Edgar Degas. It's called Dancer Taking a Bow. It's from 1878. Um, Degas loved painting ballet dancers, and he would sit around at the ballet studios where they were rehearsing and just paint and paint and paint. And these types of paintings have become enormously popular in print. So you buy a print of the painting. When I was a little girl, this particular piece hung in my bedroom. This is a very famous Impressionist piece by Georges Seurat, probably saying his name wrong. This is called A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte. And it's done in 1884. This painting is 10 feet wide. And remember, he's painting it there. So he literally took a canvas that was 10 feet wide out to do this painting. Yeah, you can notice that the people are very, very stiff and formal. Part of the interesting stuff that goes with this is the fact that it is supposed to be showing people of various different social classes. So the fancy rich people standing with their umbrellas, a guy playing a musical instrument, probably someone working there, some people out on boats and things like that. So you get a lot of variety in the social classes. Also, if you look very, very closely, this is all done with tiny little dots of color. So he literally sits there just poking in little dots of color um, to make the scene. And the people, yes, they are very stiff. This does not look like it's supposed to look realistic. And that is part of the point. This piece is by Gustave Caillebotte, and it's called Paris Street Rainy Day, 1877. And it does look almost as though a photograph was taken, but back in those days, a photographer wouldn't go out and just randomly take a picture of people in the street. And so this was a very strange painting because it looks like it could be a photograph. And this person, once again, would have been out there on a rainy day doing this piece of a bunch of random people wandering around. And there's an incredible amount of detail in it. I notice you can actually see that the woman is wearing an earring. So huge amount of detail in this piece. So very different from what some of the other things are showing. So this is the beginning of our study of Impressionist art. We're going to be looking at more. My students, you are giving me at least 10 sentences about what you found interesting, educational, and important.